Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. For the video today, I am back with a video kind of dedicated to talking about my experience with Lexapro. I have done a couple videos on this in the past when I first started, so I'll make sure I link those up and down below. I'm going to be talking a bit about any updates since my last videos, which is obviously a number of years ago, and I'll briefly touch on how I kind of started taking it, my experience over the past couple years, and also be talking on other treatments that I've experienced for anxiety and depression, and something else as well, which I'll touch on in a bit. But I just wanted to mention what this video is all about, that way you know what to expect. I know it's a bit of a specific and niche subject, so obviously it's not for everyone, but I do remember when I put out my original videos a couple of years ago, people seemed to find it helpful, and every now and then I do get comments from people asking for an update. And I feel like I've got a fair bit to update on. I guess most of it is going to be talking about Lexapro, but there's a couple other subjects, medications, treatments and things I'm going to talk about today. So if you think that sounds helpful or interesting, hopefully you enjoy the video. And if it sounds like something that's just not up your alley, obviously click off. I honestly won't mind. But with that being said, I'm just going to get started. I have some notes here, so hopefully I don't ramble too much, but I'm going to see how I go, hopefully making sense of everything and not waffling on too much. But I guess I'll just start out by saying I have been taking Lexapro for about 6 years. Again, I do have videos detailing everything from the very start, and obviously that will be more thorough. So I'll make sure I have that linked up and down below. If you want to watch those, feel free to click on those and come back, or watch those later, because obviously that's a lot more in-depth and it was very fresh in my mind back then. Nowadays, thinking back to then, it's kind of a blur because I think I started about 6 years ago. But let's start way back when. I actually started taking that because I do, and kind of have for a long time, struggled with elements of anxiety and depression. Like I know many people do. It's just a decision I came to that I wanted to try some medication to help, and this is alongside actual talk therapy as well as the medication. So I know everybody's got a different standpoint on treatment for these sort of things. To me, it's the same as taking medication for, I don't know, cold or flu. What else do people take medicine for? It's the same thing. I feel like if you need treatment and if you decide to take treatment for something, you should do it if that's something you want to do. Kind of simple mentality I have there. But I did take Lexapro to help out with my symptoms, and I think it really helped quite a bit. I started on 10 milligrams and I've obviously taken that for quite a few years. Now again, I think I did mention I have done therapy as well, and that is different forms of talk therapy throughout the years with different therapists through different means. I've done face-to-face therapy, I've done BetterHelp online sessions during the pandemic, I even tried that, and I've had quite a few therapists over the years, on and off as per my needs, and I think that's quite helpful to have in conjunction with the medication. For some people maybe one or the other would work, but for me, using a combination of the two as and when I need them, I think works the best. Honestly, apart from slight side effects at the very start and kind of persistent dry mouth through taking Lexapro, there's not much I could say over the years. It didn't have any long-term negative side effects for me that I noticed. I didn't notice it affected weight gain or libido, which I think is another thing that some people find. It wasn't the case for me. Again, probably the most noticeable thing was dry mouth, but honestly I got used to that and things were going pretty well. I think it was last year, although I can't remember exactly when, I started to feel a little bit more affected mentally, and this was through current day-to-day events at the time, and partly things in my past that kept really affecting me, which I won't go into. I don't want this video to be too dark or depressing or get too much into my personal history here, but suffice to say I wasn't doing well. I felt quite down in the dumps, to put it mildly, where I was going through a bit more of a depressive moment, and I decided that I was going to try and see what I could do to help. So through help with my GP, I did increase my Lexapro to 20 milligrams. I think it was last year, maybe it was the end of 2023. It was a little while ago that I doubled my dose, and at the time. I thought it was mostly because of my job. I've spoken a little bit here or there about my previous job, and I'm not going to get too much into that either, but I worked in a somewhat stressful job with some lovely people and some of the worst people I've ever met, to be honest. I had a boss who was verbally abusive and would throw things and just have absolute tantrums and fits. It's truly bizarre to think back on, and I'm glad I'm out of there now, but it was a really demented place to be every day, and that wore me down quite a bit. So I did what I could to just get through. Again, without getting too in-depth, the work environment did dredge up some bad memories and experiences from my past which have affected me throughout my whole life. Again, I won't go into detail, but maybe you can imagine what I'm talking about here. Maybe you can't, that's fine. I wasn't doing well, to put it mildly. So I did increase my dose of Lexapro to 20 milligrams. After a little bit of time of trying that out and still not feeling much better from guidance from my doctor, I did also try to take Mirtazapine. Now, I'm not going to talk too long on Mirtazapine. I feel like that could be a whole separate video, honestly. I didn't take it too long, but my experience with it was some mix of positive and negative. Honestly, I have tried many medications over the years for all sorts of things, and I feel like many medications can be hit or miss with side effects. I don't think I've taken anything that had as many side effects as Mirtazapine did for me. Now, when I started taking it, this was from direction of my doctor. At this point in my life, I was trucking along taking the stronger dose of Lexapro, and that was going okay, but still I wasn't feeling as good as I thought I could. So I spoke to my doctor again and started doing therapy again, and also decided that I'd be taking Mirtazapine with my doctor's guidance. Now, Mirtazapine, I think, can have a couple benefits, or it's treatment for a few things, but for me, this was something I discussed with my doctor in treatment for PTSD, and for that it can be quite helpful, I believe. I think for me the effects were beneficial to some extent, but honestly I just had way too many side effects. So I know that obviously any medication can come with side effects. I guess I'd never really experienced the extent of side effects that Mirtazapine caused for me anyway. I've spoken in the past, obviously, now and in videos about Lexapro. I think side effects are quite minimal for me. Obviously that's not the case for everybody. I've got to stop these sort of disclaimers, but I just want to make it clear. It can be so different for everyone. You know what I mean? But I've had a lot of forms of birth control as well over the years, and I know they can have all sorts of different side effects. I never noticed anything negative, but there was something about the Mirtazapine. I did notice two main side effects, and I think that these are widely known, but maybe everyone notices them differently, or not everyone deals with them. But I think two main things people talk about is the fact that it can make you really sleepy. In fact, I think some people use it truly as a sleeping aid, and that was not too bad. I'll talk more on that in a sec. But the second one is weight gain, so I'll talk a lot more on that in a sec. But with Mirtazapine, it did make me really sleepy. I used to take it at nights, and a really small dose, I think like 7.5 milligrams. I was having half a tablet, and there's something weird about it I've heard, where kind of the less you take, the more side effects you notice. I don't know if I'm completely misconstruing that, but I feel like that's what I was told. And the dosage I was on did make me quite sleepy, so taking it at night was fine. I did notice shortly after taking it I would conk out, ready for bed. No matter if I was ready for bed or not, I fell asleep a lot of nights on the couch, and I would sleep quite heavily. I did notice something weird, that it would give me quite strange dreams. Not necessarily nightmares, but I think my dreams were more vivid, and I remembered them a lot more the next day, which was not a bad side effect, just kind of weird. And the sleepiness did flow on into the day, which was a bit frustrating. It wasn't the worst thing about it, but it was noticeable. I felt pretty sleepy throughout the day, and obviously very tired at night. I can't say that it had no benefit on me. I think overall it did help a little bit with my symptoms, but I just didn't think it was worth it, especially when I came to notice weight gain. For me that was frustrating because I am a bit of a shorter person, and I've always been petite. I've had you know, weight fluctuations over the years to some extent, but I've never taken a medication that made me gain weight like this. I can't say it's fully down to the medication. It might be for a couple reasons. I have heard that it does increase your appetite, so maybe that's part of it, or it might medically kind of make you gain or hold on to fat a little bit more. I'm not too sure, but I do believe that it did make me gain about 15 to 20 kilos in a short amount of time, which was quite shocking for me. If it had amazing outcomes for me, I may have continued to take it, but for the fact that I didn't really notice much of a difference mentally, and the negative side effects combined just didn't make me feel like it was worth it, so I quit the mirtazapine. And coming off it was fine. I don't think that there was any negative drawback there. I'll mention that now because I did actually eventually stop taking Lexapro, so I'm jumping ahead. Off the mirtazapine but still taking the slightly stronger dose of Lexapro, I continued to see my psychologist, and something that we decided, something else that I was going to try was non-medication but a different treatment called EMDR. And I'd always heard of EMDR throughout the years. I will get the actual description up because I feel like I always say the wrong thing when I describe it to friends. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I feel like I want to say reprogramming, which is kind of what it feels like, but it is kind of what it sounds like. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So it uses eye movement alongside thinking and to a slight extent talking about certain events and memories and just feelings within your body to kind of write them in a way in your brain. And the most dumbed down way I can sort of explain this, and this is even more of a simple way I can explain it than what was explained to me, is the eye movement is similar to REM sleep when your eyes are doing rapid eye movements, and that kind of helps consolidate thoughts, memories, and just your experiences throughout the day. So it's a similar side effect, if that makes sense, and you're targeting certain thoughts, memories, and feelings. Now, it does sound very hippy-dippy, very woo-woo. That's something I've thought of for as much as I've sort of heard about it, but I was keen to give it a go because I had heard it was very helpful for the treatment of PTSD. And different doctors have different approaches to this. Sometimes they, I think, shine a light like a torch or use their hand or some sort of object to guide you to move your eyes. And for myself, with my therapist, she used an EMDR light box. It was an LED strip that would zip, I think it was blue light, back and forth, and obviously you're looking at the movement as you sort of sit and think about. It's hard to explain, and again, doctors may have a different approach. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just someone who's experienced this, but the idea behind it is sitting and feeling your feelings about certain memories and experiences while you look at the light and sort of breathe through it, if that makes sense. It sounds very weird. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. There's definitely better explanation videos out there, but I did find that so beneficial. I know I'm cutting to the chase here. Again, I was quite skeptical. I thought, am I being hypnotized into being happy and moving on from certain things? I sort of joke about it with friends and say I was hypnotized, but no, it's not hypnosis. It is backed in science, as weird as it sounds, and I would consider myself an advocate for it. I got so much help out of it. Overall, I think I did about 6 sessions, and I started noticing benefits from, I think, my second session. It's something that I would potentially go back to as well if I feel the need, but after 6 treatments of that spaced apart, I'd noticed so many benefits. Without going into too much detail again, nightmares that I've had my whole life have stopped in relation to certain events, which is just crazy to think about. If you are thinking about doing EMDR, I would heavily recommend it. There was no negative side effects. I think the worst thing about it is the fact that it just sounds a little bit weird, so there's some skepticism to get over, but I would recommend it if it's something that you think you need for treatment of PTSD or possibly even depression and anxiety. I think it can help a wide array of concerns. I know I'm cutting to the chase there, but honestly, I think out of everything, that was the biggest change in my life that I've done, and I'm so glad that I did it. I kind of want to shout from the rooftops how helpful that is. So I got a lot of benefit from that. And with the treatment as well as general therapy with the same therapist I saw, even though she specialized in EMDR, we had general sessions as well. Now, because I was doing so well mentally, the guidance from my GP and therapist, and also something I was keen to try, would be to stop taking the Lexapro. I guess at the end of the day, I'd been taking it for so many years and I thought I was in a good mental space. I definitely was. But I wanted to give it a go, just seeing how I would do life without it, because I didn't think I would take it for the rest of my life. So I thought I would give it a go. And this was with guidance from my GP. I want to stress that I don't think you should stop taking any medication, no matter what it's for, abruptly, and just making that decision yourself. So I think the way I did it was going from 20 milligrams down to the 15 to 10 to 5. Like, I was chopping up these pills into small pieces. I think you can go to pharmacists and get them to make small, like, increments of medication. I didn't do that. I was just chopping it up and taking small pieces, and I did that over the course of a month, or maybe even 6 weeks. I took a really long time because I had been on it for so long, and it was, you know, slightly higher dosage than I was used to originally. So I wanted to titrate down, I think is the term. And eventually I took the last little piece, the little crumble that I cut up, and wanted to see how life would be. Now, my experience coming off it was not good. I'll be blunt. I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but if I could do it again, I probably would have taken even longer to decrease the dose, or maybe taken them like tiny little bits every second day or a couple times a week, because my experience coming off it was just so bad. I can't even imagine what it would be like to abruptly stop it, but I definitely went through some crazy withdrawal symptoms. I feel like I looked like somebody coming off heroin in the movies. For a good week, I'd say it lasted. I just felt the sickest I've ever been, and this was worse than COVID, which I had last year as well. I felt nauseous all the time. I can't even imagine what morning sickness is like. I don't know if it was like that or worse, so maybe I'm sounding dramatic, but I just felt like I was gonna vomit non-stop. I had a headache constantly, I had a stomach ache constantly, and I felt rubbish. I just felt so sick for a good 7 days. I was taking anti-nausea medications, and also I think Zofran, the little wafer things, that barely touched the surface. I was walking around with a sick bag all the time, and I think I was sick a couple times. Most of the time it just felt like I was going to be unwell, but that feeling for a whole week was just monstrous, and it didn't stop for a second. So again, I'm not saying that to scare anybody, but after I came off it, and actually even during feeling like this, I thought, well, I should just take more, because I had leftover pills. I thought, well, I should just go back on, because I can't survive this. I had no idea how long it would last, but I tried to push through, and eventually, I think it was day 8 or 9, I felt normal. Truth be told, after I fully stopped, I thought, well, no matter what, I'll never be able to take it again, because I don't think I'll be able to go through this feeling of withdrawal ever again, which was a little bit scary to think of. There's not much of note to say during my time off it. I'd say that life was trucking along, certain things happened, like I got a new job. In fact, I even made a video that I didn't publish or put up, I didn't even edit it really, talking all about this stuff. Everything I've said in the video so far, I recorded, and I just never edited it because eventually I fell into a slump. But I was doing reasonably well, I thought, until I realized I wasn't. I'd say that for any like mental health condition, whether that's, you know, anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever, I think it's a lifelong thing. There's not one fix. As much benefit as I got out of the EMDR, and benefit I've gotten out of therapy throughout the years, or medications here or there, it's definitely an ongoing lifelong thing. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, like I said, same as other sicknesses, illnesses. I think it's important to treat the situation. You can't just bury your head in the sand. and it took me a long time to realize, but I did need to take medications again, and I'm probably going to go back to therapy too. It's just something that I don't think I would get much benefit out of right now. I realized it is just chemical for me at the minute. So when I fell into a bit of a depression for a few weeks, nothing would pick me up out of it, I kind of came to the realization I probably wanted to try and take the Lexapro again. And I did something that I probably shouldn't have done. I did start taking it under my own dosing. I had leftover medication, and there was nothing really stopping me from going to the doctor and saying, hey, I'm going to start it again. I'm just saying this to be honest. I don't think what I did was necessarily the smartest thing, but it worked out. I slowly dosed up and have just been taking 10 milligrams since I've seen my doctor, and she gave me a funny look when I sort of explained this, but she's like, yeah, okay, I get it, you did what you had to do, but don't do it again. That's more or less the feedback I got. And I'm saying this again just to be honest, I don't recommend it. Don't fuck around with your medications willy-nilly. I'd say that for now 10 milligrams, and knowing that I'll probably go back to treatment like therapy and possibly even EMDR again, is where I'm at mentally. I wanted to say this, all of this story, just to say that I think taking care of yourself is important. Who would have thought? That's the understatement of the century. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of your body and your mind and listen to yourself. And it's taken me a long time to get to a space where I feel like I'm doing really well. There have been times in the past that I've thought that, and then, you know, it's a roller coaster. But where I'm at now, I'd say it's a combination of things. It's medication and treatment, and for me that works really well. Obviously I've touched on a lot of things throughout this video: Lexapro, Mirtazapine, general therapy, and also EMDR, and all of them have played a part. They've had some pros and cons. I know that everyone will experience these things differently, so maybe something I've said will work better for you or not work if it worked for me. But I suppose I just wanted to share my experience in case it helps anyone. Where I'm at now, life is just life. I'm doing really well day to day. I am working in a job where I feel safe for one, which is just amazing. I am really happy in my job, even though it can be stressful a lot of times. I don't think that there's a job out there that probably isn't stressful to some extent, but the day-to-day is so much better. I feel healthy at the moment overall compared to many years past. I'm doing really well in my health. Like I said, job, my family is good. Overall, I'm really happy day to day, and the history of everything and the heaviness that I've had in the past, I feel doesn't really weigh on me that much. And I think a big part of that is the EMDR. But general day to day, also just helped by the medication. Like I said, same as taking medication for any sort of sickness or illness. I don't think it's a bad thing. Overall, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say where I'm at the moment. I may decide to stop taking Lexapro in the future. Obviously, if I do, I will take an even longer time frame. Even longer than what I did, maybe 2 months. And like I said, taking a dose here or there, I think that might be the way, because I just can't go through that sort of feeling ever again. But if that's something I do in the future, it's something I'll do very carefully and cross that bridge when I come to it. I don't think it means that I or anybody should be scared about taking medications, but I just want to stress that do it even slower than you think, just in case, because the feeling is not good if you experience that. Alright, but I think that is everything I need to say. I said at the start, I really wanted to try and not waffle on. I'll see how long this video is. I fear that maybe it's a little bit longer than I would have liked, but I'll see how I go editing, try to make things concise and make sense. Before I go, I just wanted to thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found this video helpful or got something out of it. If you've got any questions or any comment related to this, let me know in a comment down below. I would love to have a chat with you, and perhaps some of you want to chat about any of your experiences as well. Maybe it's different to mine. I'd love to hear it. But I'm going to be leaving you here. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.